So we had to continue from our last topic, which is supported movement, and this will be the last subtopic, which is the structure and function of muscles. Muscles are tissues, and therefore being tissues, they are made up of many cells whose main function is to bring about movement and later on locomotion. Muscles are made up of basic functional units which are known as myofibrils. Myofibrils are the basic functional units of all muscles. Myofibrils are contractile fibers which are in form of columns that run throughout the structure of the muscle. If I may use this diagram to represent or to show you the fibrils, then this is a myofibril, which is in form of a column, and the myofibril itself, which is said is the basic structural unit, basic functional unit of a muscle, is that it has the ability to contract and relax. Contraction and relaxation of myofibrils is what enables the muscles also to contract and relax. Then contraction and relaxation of the muscles is what will bring about movement of an organ or movement of a body part. So the ability of muscles to contract and relax is brought about by contraction and relaxation of the myofibrils. The myofibrils are made up of two main types of proteins known as myosin and actin. So myosin and actin are two main types of proteins that form myofibrils. There are also other proteins, but the main ones, actin and myosin. Then, there are three main types of muscles that exist within the bodies of animals. In particular case here, we are looking at muscles within the bodies of human beings. So within the bodies of human beings, there are three main types of muscles, namely A, skeletal muscles, the second one, B, smooth muscles, third one, C, cardiac muscles. These are the three types of muscles that are found within the human body. So we will look at each and every type of muscle, its structure, that is what it's made up of, and the part of the body where each and every type of muscle is found. Then later on we look at the characteristics of each and every type of muscle. That is, what makes skeletal muscles to be different from smooth muscles, and what makes smooth muscles to be different from cardiac muscles. So right away we'll start off with skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles are muscles which are found attached to the endoskeleton. Since they're attached to the endoskeleton, that is why they're referred to as skeletal muscles. And it is also because they bring about movement or change in positions of the endoskeleton. Skeletal muscles are also known as striated muscles. They are also known as striated muscles or striped muscles because when they're looked at keenly, it is found that they are made up of black and white bands. White and black stripes or bands. So the presence of stripes on skeletal muscles make them to be referred to as striated or striped muscles. They are also known as involuntary muscles. Skeletal muscles are referred to as involuntary muscles because they are innervated by the involuntary part of the nervous system. Since they are connected or innervated by involuntary part of the nervous system, they are also known as, not involuntary, they are also known as voluntary muscles. Sorry. Skeletal muscles are also known as voluntary muscles because they are innervated by voluntary part of nervous system. So correction there. Skeletal muscles are known as voluntary muscles because they are innervated or connected to the voluntary part of the nervous system. So in short, skeletal muscles are called striated muscles or striped muscles because they have lines or bands of black and white. They are also known as voluntary muscles because they are innervated by voluntary part of the nervous system. Since they are voluntary muscles, it is an individual who can decide when to make them contract and relax. For example, when you are to write, it is the individual who decides when to stretch, bend, and change the positions of the hand while writing. Same to the muscles that are found on the thighs. So, in terms of structure of skeletal muscles, the skeletal muscles are made up of muscle fibers. The muscle fiber runs the whole length of skeletal muscle. So each skeletal muscle is made up of muscle fiber. So the whole of this is a muscle fiber. Then inside the muscle fiber, there are several myofibrils. So this is one of them. So there are several myofibrils that are found inside the muscle fiber. The myofibrils, as we had mentioned before, are the basic functional units of all muscles, including skeletal muscles. The muscle fiber is covered by a membrane. The membrane that covers the muscle fiber is known as sarcolemma. So sarcolemma is the covering or cell membrane of a muscle fiber. A muscle fiber can be considered to be a cell. Then each and every muscle fiber or skeletal muscle is made up of several nuclei. So we can say that skeletal muscles are multinucleated. They are multinucleated because each and every muscle cell has many nuclei. The main function of skeletal muscles is to bring about movement of the skeletons. For example, we have radius and ulna, whose bending and stretching is brought about by biceps and triceps, which are skeletal muscles. The thighs, we have muscles of the thigh that bring about bending and stretching of tibia and fibula that bring about movement of the legs. So, all our bones are covered by skeletal muscles. Then, what are some of the characteristics or distinguishing features of skeletal muscles? The distinguishing features of skeletal muscles that make them different from other muscles are: one, they are multinucleated. What that means is each and every muscle cell has more than one nucleus. 2, they develop fatigue easily. So, when skeletal muscles are made to contract and relax for several hours or several minutes, it reaches a point where they cannot contract and relax anymore. That means they've developed fatigue. So they develop fatigue easily compared to cardiac muscles and smooth muscles. 3rd one, they are striated. Skeletal muscles have stripes of black and white. Since they have stripes of black and white, they are referred to as striated muscles. As you can see from the fibrils here, they are black, they are bands that are marked with green and several different colors, showing that they have black and white marks. So they are striated. They have a lot of mitochondria. Skeletal muscles have a lot of mitochondria because their contraction and relaxation requires a lot of energy. That energy that is needed for contraction and relaxation of skeletal muscles will be generated from mitochondria through the process of respiration. Fifth characteristic, they are voluntary. They are voluntary muscles, meaning they are innervated by the voluntary part of the nervous system. So refer to them as voluntary muscles. So to sum up on the skeletal muscles, we've said they are muscles which are in contact with the endoskeleton. Specific examples, biceps and triceps. They are made up of muscle fibers, and each muscle fiber can be compared to a cell, and inside each muscle fiber there are myofibrils. The myofibrils that form the muscle fiber are covered by a membrane known as sarcolemma. Characteristics of skeletal muscles, they are multinucleated, they develop fatigue easily, they are striped or striated, they have a lot of mitochondria, they are voluntary muscles. So next we look into smooth muscles. Smooth muscles are also muscles of the body whose contraction and relaxation bring about movement within body parts or organs where they are found. Smooth muscles, just like skeletal muscles, have myofibrils. The myofibrils we mentioned are contractile fibers whose contraction and relaxation makes the whole muscle to contract and relax. Smooth muscles are also known as visceral muscles. They are referred to as visceral muscles because they form the walls of visceral organs like wall of digestive system, where they are found to form the walls of stomach, intestines, etc. Intestines you refer to colon, and small intestine. They are also found on the walls of some reproductive parts. Like the walls of fallopian tubes, urethra, they are also found to form the walls of reproductive systems of the males, like the vas deferens, and several other parts of the body. So these are some of the visceral organs whose walls are made up of smooth muscles. So smooth muscles are known as visceral muscles because they form the walls of visceral organs we've mentioned, the ones of reproductive parts, digestive parts. Then smooth muscles are also known as involuntary muscles. Smooth muscles are also known as involuntary muscles because they are innervated or connected to the involuntary part of the nervous system, meaning their contraction and relaxation is not decided upon by the individual. For example, the smooth muscles which form veins and arteries. The veins do undergo vasodilation and vasoconstriction during thermoregulation. Vasoconstriction and vasodilation takes place automatically. It's not the individual who decides when the veins are to undergo vasodilation or vasoconstriction. Due to that, we say that's an involuntary activity. So in other words, smooth muscles are also found to be part of veins and arteries. Then, what are the characteristics of smooth muscles? That is, what are the distinguishing features that make smooth muscles to be different from cardiac muscles and skeletal muscles? So, distinguishing features. One, they have tapered ends. Let me display a diagram of the smooth muscles to show the distinguishing features or characteristics that I've introduced one of them and others to follow. So, these are smooth muscle cells or units of smooth muscles. We say that smooth muscles have tapered ends, meaning they have pointed ends or sharp ends. For example, this is a smooth muscle cell. The terminal end is pointed, the terminal end over the other side is also pointed. So smooth muscles have pointed ends. Two, they are uninucleated. What that means is each and every smooth muscle cell has one nucleus. Smooth muscle cell, this is the nucleus that is marked in blue color. So each and every smooth muscle has one nucleus. So we say they are uninucleated. Third one, they are involuntary. What that means is smooth muscles are connected to or they are innervated by involuntary part of the nervous system. As you can see, we have nerve fibers. These nerve fibers are part of the involuntary nervous system upon which smooth muscles are linked to. So we say they're involuntary. Fourth one, they do not develop fatigue easily. They do not develop fatigue easily. What that means is they can develop fatigue, but it's not easy for them to develop fatigue. Compared to the skeletal muscles develop fatigue easily. Fifth characteristic, they are not striated. That is, smooth muscles do not have stripes of black and white, so they are not striated. So in summary, smooth muscles are special types of muscles that are found inside the body where they form walls of visceral organs. Visceral organs like the walls of the digestive system, where we talk about the walls of intestines, the walls of the stomach, walls of duodenum, walls of blood vessels, that is veins and arteries. They're also found in the walls of some parts of the reproductive system, like for the male, found in the urethra, females, fallopian tubes, and walls of the uterus as well. Then, distinguishing features of the smooth muscles, they have tapered or pointed ends. As you can see from the diagram, they are uninucleated. Each and every cell has one nucleus. They're involuntary, meaning they are connected to the involuntary part of the nervous system. They do not develop fatigue. The last one, they are not striated. They don't have stripes of black and white. Then the last type of muscles that we look into will be cardiac muscles. These are muscles of the heart. I'll display a diagram to show cardiac muscles. So from the diagram, though not very clear, from the diagram we have a display of cardiac muscles. We said cardiac muscles are muscles of the heart that have centrally placed nucleus, and the centrally placed nucleus has cells which are striated. For example, this section here represents a complete cardiac muscle. Another section here, another cardiac muscle. The lower side, another cardiac muscle. From the diagram, we can see that cardiac muscles have a nucleus that is placed in the middle of the cell. So cardiac muscles have centrally placed nucleus, and that cardiac muscles have stripes. They are striated, as you can see, bands of black and white. Cardiac muscles, just like the other muscles, have myofibrils. We'd mentioned before that myofibrils are the basic functional units of muscles because they are contractile. They can contract and relax. Their contraction and relaxation is what makes the muscles to be able to contract and relax. Then, what are the characteristics of cardiac muscles that make them different from smooth muscles and skeletal muscles? So the distinguishing features: one, they have a lot of mitochondria compared to all other types of muscles. That means the heart beats non-stop throughout the lifespan of an individual. That means for the cardiac muscles to be able to enable the heart to beat all the times throughout an individual's life, then it requires a lot of energy. Since they require a lot of energy, cardiac muscles therefore have a lot of mitochondria that will provide them with necessary amount of energy for contraction and relaxation to be able to pump blood. Two, they never develop fatigue. So cardiac muscles never develop fatigue. That means, could it be that cardiac muscles could easily develop fatigue? Then that can lead to cardiac arrest and death of affected person. So cardiac muscles never develop fatigue. Three, they are myogenic. What this means is the ability to form rhythms of contraction and relaxation is generated right within the muscles. That means if you look at smooth muscles and skeletal muscles, the ability to contract and relax is dependent on central nervous system. But the ability of cardiac muscles to contract and relax is independent of central nervous system. That means it's independent of the brain and spinal cord. The ability of cardiac muscles to contract and relax is generated within the muscles. Therefore, we say they are myogenic. Fourth one, they have intercalated. That means they have swollen terminal ends, which are like bridges. These swollen terminal ends, as labeled here, intercalated discs, here. Those intercalated discs have one main function. They are swollen terminal ends that form bridges. Those bridges enable nervous communication nerve impulse to pass through them at a faster rate. And at the same time, it minimizes friction during systole and diastole, that is contraction and relaxation of the muscles of the heart. So intercalated discs form bridges which overlap from one cell to another. That helps in minimizing friction during systole and diastole, and at the same time, it enables nerve impulse to pass very fast through the muscles of the heart, that is cardiac muscles. Fifth characteristic, which is similar to that of the skeletal muscles, is that they are striated. So they have striations, but the difference between their striations and that of the skeletal muscles is their striations form a kind of mesh. That is, there are those that run horizontally and there are those that run vertically. So they form a mesh. But those of skeletal muscles were moving in one particular direction and therefore did not form mesh. Those are the main characteristics or distinguishing features of cardiac muscles. And therefore, That brings us to the end of the last subtopic of support and movement, which is structure and function of muscles. So, in summary, we have three main types of muscles: skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles, and smooth muscles. I've mentioned the parts of the body where each and every type of muscle is found, the characteristics or distinguishing features of each and every type of muscle, and the structure of the muscles as displayed on the diagrams drawn or the photographs. That marks the end of that subtopic.